Let's talk about the Attorney General, Joseph. She was also in Parliament today. Tell us, what did she come to do?
We gather that she's currently still in the presence of Parliament. We actually spotted her on the floor of the House just about 30 minutes ago. She walked in, took her seat. We are not too much clear at the moment the purpose for which she's around, but the details that we gather is that the conversation that's been ongoing for the last 3 days, since the president announced and indicated that there are plans to introduce an emergency legislation to back the measures to deal with the issue of the coronavirus spread. That is possibly what she is around to do. Now, what has happened is, soon after she came in, the sitting on the floor was actually suspended, and the speaker who was presiding then, Jose, also indicated that they are taking a break for like an hour and a half, and then we'll see a situation where when they return after an hour and a half, they would continue with business. He wasn't very specific, but the details that we gather is that it's very likely that she came around with that particular legislation to lay it on the floor of the House and possibly get the Parliament of Ghana to begin a conversation on that. Let me get a quick comment on that. Mahama Ayariga is a legal practitioner. He is the Member of Parliament for Boku Central. Well, he's asking me to get my hands off and keep the social distance, even as we begin this particular conversation. But we spotted the Attorney General in the House. The hint we get is that she may be introducing the said emergency legislation with regards to the measures to deal with the coronavirus issues. Your expectations?
Oh, well, I mean, we've been waiting to see if the president will act in accordance with the Constitution. So far, the president has acted unconstitutionally, unfortunately, even though the circumstances are such that many are willing to forgive for clear violations of the Constitution.
What do you mean by that, that he's acted unconstitutionally and there have been clear violations of the Constitution?
Under the Constitution, there are two ways in which rights of citizens to assemble peacefully, to move around, and etc., which rights have been impinged upon by the declaration made by the president. Under the Constitution, there are two ways in which those rights can be limited or abridged. One is when we pass an act of parliament restricting rights in the interest of emergencies, protecting the public interest and security and etc. Rights can be limited by acts of parliament for those purposes, those limited purposes. But also in case of national emergency, state of emergency, when there is a proclamation by the president, then within those periods, rights can be restricted. So in this case, the president did not proclaim a state of emergency and did not publish a gazette to that effect. And so the limitations of rights are not taking place pursuant to a declaration of a state of emergency or proclamation of state of emergency. And at the same time, he is yet to bring a bill to Parliament requesting us to enact limitations to those rights. And yet I hear that the police and law enforcement agencies have begun enforcing the directives of the president.
That has happened in Kumasi, for example. We read on My Joy Online, a pastor has actually been picked up for going ahead with a church service in defiance of the president's order. You think that is unconstitutional and out of place? Is that the point?
Definitely it's unconstitutional. Definitely, if that pastor goes to court, he will win. If they go to court to prosecute him, the court will definitely set him free. He might even be able to sue the state and get compensated for the violations of his rights. So we all support the emergency measures proclaimed by the president. But we also thought that he will do it in accordance with our Constitution. Whilst we support the emergency measures, we also believe that at all times we must endeavor to comply with our Constitution.
They are still working on it. So between when the document is being worked on and now when said directives are being disregarded, the state should look on. Is that the expectation you would have on a regular day?
The state cannot do anything. The state cannot do anything lawful at this stage. The state cannot retroactively have people punished based on an act of parliament that we are yet to pass after we have passed it. So as we speak, we all support it. We all urge our people. I have called my constituency. I've called my chiefs. I've called my chief imams. I've called some of our my pastors in my constituency, appealing to them to comply with the president's directives, because it is also for their own, protection. But also as a legislator and a lawyer and somebody who has sworn an oath to protect the Constitution, I'm saying that so far the president has violated the Constitution.
Do you know why it's delayed all this while? The president gave the announcement on Sunday night. We were told it was coming on Monday. It didn't happen. Tuesday, it didn't happen. Now we're expecting it today. Do you, as legislators, do you have the slightest idea how come the document has delayed?
I think there's been some confusion within government as to which of the measures they should take. The option of bringing a legislation or proclaiming a state of emergency, and they have vacillated between the two. And that is, I believe, what has caused the delay. First time I heard, my understanding was that they were bringing a proclamation of state of emergency, and the president could have proclaimed on Sunday, and on Monday he could have published in the Gazette the proclamation, and then immediately come to Parliament to give us the facts and circumstances warranting the proclamation of the state of emergency. And within 72 hours, which would have been today, we in Parliament would have had to either accept the continuance of the state of emergency or rejected it. Now, they debated that for a while, and then at a certain point they said, no, let's pass legislation limiting rights and not go as far as constitutional proclamation of state of emergency. Then for a while that one also was rejected by some people, and they decided they were going to come back and then come to us with the proclamation of state of emergency. Then again that one, and then today you are saying that the AG was here. I saw her in the chamber. We exchanged greetings. I don't know what she came to do. I haven't heard from my leadership. I hope it is the draft legislation. I have been hanging around here for the past 3 days, and you and I have had this discussion where I've been here for the past 3 days waiting to see that bill. And so as a human rights lawyer and advocate, to see to it that all the necessary human rights protections are guaranteed, even as we limit rights in the context of this emergency situation that we find ourselves. So I'm yet to see the bill. We haven't been told that we are taking a short break in order that the bill will be laid. But the bill could have been laid when we were sitting, so that when we took the short adjournment, it could have been distributed to us, and then when we come back, the Speaker can get us to pass it under a certificate of urgency and have it passed. I think generally we all support the process, but we don't support any conduct that violates our Constitution.
Many thanks. Mahama Ayariga is the Member of Parliament for Boku Central, having that conversation with us on what he says is a breach of the Constitution with regards to the limitation of rights in the light of a non-declaration of a state of emergency, nor an approval from Parliament for the limitation of rights as the President has actually directed. So we're waiting over the next few minutes. By 4:30, the House will resume sitting, and then we'll wait to see what the Attorney General will be doing in the chamber of the House.
Certainly, Joseph, and we'll be getting to you as and when we can. But quickly before you go, coronavirus again on Parliament. In Parliament, we've heard the majority leader say some pretty interesting things about the sanitizers installed in there.
Interestingly, he's been complaining that the sanitizers that have been, the stands that have been mounted here in the House, you get to it, the sanitizer is full, within an hour you come back and all of it is gone. He thinks it's completely out of place. People are siphoning it, and he's been warning that those who've been involved in that, the CCTV cameras will be activated, and when they are caught, they'll be named, shamed, and then sanctions and punitive measures would also be applied. And he said it right on the floor of Parliament, and a number of MPs in the background were giggling and virtually making fun of it.
And when he say people are siphoning the sanitizers in Parliament, and is that essentially stealing them, is he referring to the members of Parliament, or is he referring to the staff? I mean, or visitors? Who is stealing?
He wasn't specific. These are hand sanitizer stands that are right around the chamber. So staff use it, members of Parliament use it, visitors make use of it. And mainly the complaint was there are some individuals who have little containers in which they probably have their own sanitizers, and when that finishes, then they get onto the larger one, which is Parliament owned, pour a chunk of it in it, and then walk away with it. And he thinks that's what is reducing the amount of sanitizers around here, and he's really not happy. And he says action will be taken against anyone who goes ahead to do any such siphoning.
Indeed, sanitizer has become one of the scarce commodities here. Joseph, thank you so much for that update. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, joining us live from Parliament, where a number of issues have come up. We know that the Attorney General is there. We're not sure what she's really there to do, but we do know that President Akufo-Addo indicated the trigger of an emergency legislation. The hope is, the expectation is that she is there for this, but shortly we will know.